having that dream again. We are the emissaries from the void.
Hello, welcome to an as yet unnamed podcast where we look at strange movies, kind of maybe obscure or maybe oblique could be a word for it.
Wow, somebody's been reading the dictionary. Yes, hello, welcome to our podcast. We are going to use this time to just encourage you to spend a moment with us reviewing an odd thing that we watched. Yeah. My name is Ari, and
my name is Tristan.
And we're going to talk about We're All Going to the World's Fair as our first episode. So, Tristan, what was this movie about?
What was this movie about? Okay, so I saw it as kind of a creepypasta about creepypasta in a way. Basically, a teenager is kind of drawn into this sort of occult adjacent, ostensibly a game. You can't see me doing air quotes, but maybe you can hear it.
The spiritual air quotes.
Yeah. It's just called the World's Fair Challenge in the movie. Yeah, so you say, I want to go to the World's Fair 3 times, smear blood on your screen, and watch some sort of like hypnotic video, and then you're supposed to experience like some sort of change in your body or being, but it's all pretend, maybe.
Allegedly.
Is it?
Oh, also, as a note, before we get too into it, spoilers abound. If you found our podcast somehow and didn't watch this movie, pause our podcast, go watch the movie, and then come back and join us for this discussion. But yes, I would say that's a pretty accurate summary of the general premise.
And before we move on, Ari, could you give us a little bit of context about the filmmaker?
Absolutely. The filmmaker of We're All Going to the World's Fair is Jane Flannery Schuburn. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can read last names. It's fine. They were born in 1987, so they're actually pretty close in age to us. I mean, they're basically the same age as you.
I was also, yeah.
Yeah. So, on the younger side of things. We're not old yet. They are a non-binary trans femme person that directs these films. So I think that also can color a little bit about the experience.
Yeah.
I don't think it's as present here and We're All Going to the World's Fair, but when we do review I Saw a TV Glow, I think that it'll be much more present.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
With that stated, this film, for context, was their quote-unquote directorial debut in 2018, although they did release one movie before, so I guess it kind of just depends on what you count as a directorial debut.
Yeah, I mean, like a feature debut, I guess.
It only grossed $106,644 at the box office, which it looks like this movie was made for $15,000. So it's actually a huge return on investment.
Okay, yeah.
I know to the audience, it probably sounded like I was saying that this movie bombed, but for it being an indie director with like a debut, only $15,000. Honestly, I think that that's part of why I would have preferred it to just be in the same room. Honestly, you didn't watch the trailer, but I went and watched the trailer after we watched the movie because I was talking to another friend about it. And this trailer sets this movie up as a completely different thing than it is.
I kind of suspected that from seeing the reviews. There were a lot of people who expected a horror movie and were kind of upset by what they found.
Right, exactly. And we did talk about that a little bit after we had watched it, that it is a horror movie, but it's like an entirely existential horror movie. You used the phrase layers of artifice to describe it.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to the whole, like, is it a game? Is it not a game? And, plus it's a movie about people producing YouTube videos, and there's kind of multiple layers of intentionality that can be ambiguous, I think.
That's fair. I would agree with that analysis. Also, another thing that I was thinking about is I think that the format of this movie almost did it a little bit of a disservice when it broke the format. So we get in this film, we get a lot of vignettes in the form of like videos on this fictional website that's basically YouTube.
Right.
And then they break it and show us perspectives of the characters outside of that. And I think the intention was to show that these are just like average and normal people outside of this constructed fantasy. But I almost think that it does a disservice to the movie, because it would have been a more impactful experience to leave it ambiguous as to how serious everybody is.
If it were purely found footage.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't think of it like found footage, but yeah, kind of. Or the presentation was these vignettes of these movies, and that the only time we get any information from any of the characters is when they are recording things. So, for example, if he, the character JBL, I think is his name, right?
What would you call him? He's not exactly a game master for this.
I would say so. I would say he's a game master.
Yeah.
He's not the storyteller. He's a game master. Like those roles can
lore
be
keeper.
Kind of. So like you can have usually in gaming, the game master and the storyteller are played by the same person. But you can actually have those roles played by a different person. So the storyteller in this game they're playing is just the collective imagination of everybody involved, adding to the mythos. And then you have a person like JBL, who he's probably not the only one, but he's the one we get the perspective of, who are collecting and canonizing different parts of that shared role play that everyone's doing in this.
I see.
Thing. You know what an ARG is, right? Like,
yeah. I've never participated in one, but I'm aware of the concept.
Right. So like normally ARGs have a group of people who are orchestrating the actual events that are unfolding. This felt like a more of an collaborative story.
Yeah.
Because like basically the whole idea is like, let's all get scared together. This is an in-character channel and we're all going to get scared together.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. So that's kind of where I'm feeling like he's a game master, not a storyteller. Everyone collectively is the storyteller in this particular game.
I know there's like something similar in the real internet that's kind of a close analog. What's coming to mind is SCP. I don't know if that's anything.
The SCP Foundation.
Is it?
Well, that's one of them. So you've got creepypasta, right? And creepypasta is like we're all telling a ghost story around a campfire. And then SCP Foundation is taking it seriously, and like it's like a fictionalized report that is reporting on some supernatural phenomenon as if it was your afternoon filings in the office. So SCP has a more of a cold, calculating aesthetic to it, whereas creepypasta is like, we're going to sit down and tell a story. And I think the creepypasta is more fair. I mean, one of the vignette channels we get is titled creepypastas or whatever. So
yeah. Okay, so we started saying something about, what is it, JL?
Yeah, whatever his name is. It's some acronym of letters. Lyndon B. Johnson. Okay, yeah. So Lyndon B. Johnson. No, like if like we had those Skype calls that we get and they weren't Skype calls that were just between the two of them, they were actual like interviews or presented as content for the channel rather than being these little like side pieces, because I think it breaks the immersion of what this movie is trying to do by us cutting away from this. Like there's parts of the movie, right, where we're just like the video plays and then we get the next, like we get the little circle lines that happen and then the next video plays. If the whole movie was like that, I feel like it would be a better horror movie. It'd be more impactful because you would be watching this and you wouldn't know what's real, because we're watching a movie, so we already suspend our disbelief about like the effects. Like when there's a scene where a guy is sitting down and pulling tickets out of his arm because he's like a rash, and like we all know that's a fake effect, right? We all know that, but we're suspending our disbelief. So in the movie, it's like, is that really happening to this character?
Yeah. Is it an effect in the movie or within the video in the movie?
Right. Layers of artifice.
Indeed.
Now, what do you think this movie was trying to say thematically? Like, what was it trying to say?
So what I took from it, basically, main character Casey, she starts this I'm going to keep calling it YouTube. I don't know if it even had a name.
They say
in
it a
the
couple of
movie.
times, but God forbid, I remember.
Yeah. Online video streaming platform channel in order to kind of collect her personal videos contributing to this creepypasta game. What we see from her and kind of read from her face is that maybe she thinks some part of it is real. We see her searching for like World's Fair common symptoms, which, I mean, if she's just like trying to contribute to the story, why would you look up something that's...
Well, I got the impression that she was looking for material. Like she was, because like the whole idea is that we're all playing a shared LARP basically.
Okay.
And so we can add new things to the mythos. But so for example, there's a real life example of a shared LARP like this called the Secret Space Program. It's there's people who take it seriously, but there's always weirdos who take things seriously in any shared internet LARP. But the idea is that like these people are like mind wiped people who were part of this secret space program in whatever. And every time if you join this community, you have to follow the narrative. You have to look at what's canonized before you can contribute your own things. You can contribute to the story, but you need to make sure that you're following the rules of the game, right? You're not just coming in and saying, I can make force fields or, whatever.
Yeah. Okay, so there's at least an ostensible reason that she could be looking up common side effects. But I still feel that there's like some level of ambiguity maintained on like how or if it's affecting Casey mentally.
Mm-hmm.
In one of the scenes that isn't like a found footage recording, we follow Casey out to the barn and she looks at her dad's gun, and then she like falls asleep to some ASMR.
Well, she tries to fall asleep to some ASMR and then she's woken up by
interrupted by like brought back to the game kind of.
Which, shout out to an actual movie that played in theaters showing ASMR as just a normal thing people can access.
For a long time.
I know, like, honestly, I'm an ASMR fan and even I was getting a little uncomfortable. It just felt out of place. And like, and in the movie, the whole movie is just like holding you by the throat and you're waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah.
But no other shoe drops. Like ever, like there's things that happen, but like the whole movie has you like on a knife's edge. Like if we were to rewatch this movie together, I don't think the suspense would work twice on me because I know how it ends.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those movies that you can only watch once, like The American or Hurt Locker. It plays differently when you know which bombs are going to go off.
That's true. Although, you know, I guess you could say that of any suspense movie, right? Like,
mostly, I don't know. Anyway, we're getting off track here. I'm supposed to be talking about themes and...
Well, it all plays into the role, right? Like,
yeah.
I guess it's like the denial of closure that this movie gives us is par for the course with the internet. Like, rarely do these stories... Like, I don't know how, like, into Reddit stories and stuff that you've ever gotten, but... Someone will post something in Reddit and then everyone will get really invested, and then never is there closure. There's never closure. OP never delivers ever. And I feel like this movie was playing with that. Like we can, I mean, like we're all out of order already. So like, let's just talk about the ending.
Okay. Yeah. So multiple times in the movie, Casey says she feels like she's going to disappear and no one will ever know what happened to her. That idea is just kind of like floated a couple times, and it's the last canonical thing that we hear Casey say. Right?
Well, the last like video that she does. Yeah. And then she has that Skype conversation with JBL afterwards, where she calls him a pedophile.
I thought she called him a pedophile and then it showed her face and it had the voiceover again.
Oh, I guess I was unclear on if that was like some editing on JBL's
like
part.
A callback.
Yeah.
What I mean is like in the continuity of the film, the last thing that we, the audience, hear Casey say is
Right.
No one will ever know.
We're gonna have to edit me out saying the P word. Platforms don't like it when you say that these days. She calls him a PDF file, and then hangs up on him on Skype.
I feel like we can get away with that on a podcast.
I don't know. We'll edit it around. We'll make a decision later.
Because I do think it's important that she calls him a pedophile, because it's in the moment there's not evidence, like it comes across as a knee-jerk insult, but I think it's there deliberately to put that in the audience's mind, because the last scene is Lyndon B. Johnson recording this monologue that he's written about allegedly meeting up with Casey again 1 year later, and she thanks him and hugs him, and he's like, I couldn't believe that she was there and I was touching her. And
yeah, he's so creepy. Like when he shows up, when she talks to him for the first time, we don't see what he looks like. We just see his like avatar. Yeah, it's creepy as hell. And I'm like, okay, clearly this is just like the movie's throwing us off. The movie's making us suspect him as like some kind of threat. But no, he's actually like a little creeper. Like,
yeah, he's like, I guess, a different kind of threat. And I think that's what I took away as far as themes of the movie, is that, we seek out these like horror things to, I don't know, stimulate us, or to kind of confront some sort of darkness, but that there's real darkness that lives both within ourselves and in the world. And, interacting with people online carries that risk of interacting with pedophile Lyndon B. Johnson and
exactly. And
unconfirmed pedophile Lyndon B. Johnson.
Alleged,
we're not here to
alleged predator. We're not about to pull out our phones and see him with a red little dot on our map. But I don't know. Clearly, he's very isolated. So let's talk about, I guess, Casey's exchanges with him. So like that tarot card reading. We talked a little bit about that.
Yeah.
So randomly, she just decides, like, she does a video where she's going to do these tarot card readings. She's like lays out 12 cards, which worst tarot card reading I've ever seen in my life. But it's all targeted at him. And I think that she intended it to be targeted at him, because she lays out 12 cards but only looks at 3 of them. Like, she just found the cards that meant the things that she wanted them to mean, and then said that to him.
And she kind of frames it as like, oh, I don't know, whoever this is for is getting read today. But it did seem very pointed, and it seemed like it had to do with him. Yeah.
Right, because she seemed like really annoyed at him in their last call where he broke character. Like, she was having fun, and then...
Well, now, hold on. I think you're getting it out of order again, because the tarot card reading came before.
No, it did. I'm saying,
okay.
I'm just saying, like, that ties into the end where, like,
okay.
She's annoyed that he broke character because, like, she does that tarot card reading but still interacts with him because she's interacting with him in character. But then as soon as he breaks character, that's when she gets mad at him. Like, she actually, like, shouts at him and hangs up on him and doesn't, like, don't contact me ever again. Like,
right.
Because he broke character. He ruined her fun. And I think that that's what it's about. I think that she's I don't even know, like, how old is she supposed to be? Like 15 or something? I don't even know.
She's in high school. I think that's established. But.
Sure. Yeah. She's a latchkey kid because she comes home before her dad does, and she leaves after he's already gotten up and left for the day. Like, they have he's got one line in the whole movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she talks about him several times. So clearly she's got very conflicted feelings about him, but...
Yeah. I think the other thing with her calling Lyndon B. Johnson a pedophile is I think it can be taken as maybe a sign that her dad is abusive.
Maybe.
Because she also talks about shooting him.
That's true. But then again, is that being played up for the camera? Is that part of the role play?
Yeah.
when she goes out to the barn, because like he yells at her, the one line he has is yelling at her to turn her volume down because it's 4 a.m. or whatever the heck, which, you know, honestly, he's not unreasonable for doing. She was listening to some really loud videos before and he's like, turn that off. What are you doing? You're insane.
Yeah.
So she goes all the way out to the barn to respect his wishes to, you know, clearly not upset him by listening to videos in the early hours of the morning. Which, by the way, like, how rich are these people? Like, they have like a whole, like, they got a house and a whole area of land and a whole barn with like pool table and tools in it. Like, this is clearly like a somewhat wealthy kid that's doing these things, you know. I think that shapes the effect of the thing a little bit. Is like she clearly has a bit of privilege, and so maybe she's looking to be scared because she doesn't really know what that feels like. Like she's been isolated by like she has an abusive father, maybe, sure, but like she has a lot of things and she's got a lot of freedom to do whatever she wants for the most part, and so she's latching onto this internet trend because she wants just something to be out of her control, or you know, I don't know, like she simultaneously wants control but she also wants to be part of this thing that like takes control from her, or you know, like like her whole role play, the whole character that she's playing is someone that's losing touch with themselves and is watching themselves do things and like, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. She talks about dissociating. Actually, she talks about having dissociated before starting the game.
Right. Yeah. She talked about sleepwalking too.
Yeah.
Which is a form of dissociation, I guess.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just crazy. Like I'm just barking up the wrong tree here, but
no, I mean, it makes sense, and that's where the layers of ambiguity come in, and like there's kind of different backstories that you can piece together that fit.
Which maybe is the trap, right? Like we don't know who people are on the internet. Like, hello, viewer, you have no idea who Tristan and I are.
You don't know me.
Well, true. But like, right, you know, we can tell you details about our lives, but on the end of the day, like the parasocial relationship is the parasocial relationship.
Right.
And like, let's say, you know, we're 2 years down the line and people are listening to our podcast and we go meet fans in person. That's the start of the interaction in our minds. That like when we meet those people, that's the first time, but they've been maybe listening to us for years.
Right. Right.
And I think that's what the horror of this is about. The horror of this movie is the horror of parasocial relationships and the impact that they can have on us and how they can veil the real predators in our midst. Like, again, I agree with you that Lyndon B. Johnson is a you know, this movie's like old man, like he's like what, 45 46 years old, like he's clearly like an old guy,
right?
And so him and Casey are the two main characters because it shares the spotlight between the two of them, and every time we get a view of him outside, he is obsessing over these videos, watching these younger people do these videos, and he is fixated on Casey. He is fixated on Casey.
I think he said he spent his whole Christmas worrying about her or something.
Right. Which is really weird.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong. Like, okay, so like, you know, let's say we don't do a podcast for the Christmas season. We just take a week off. And then someone messages like, I spent all of my Christmas worrying about you, Ari. Like, oh my God. And it's like,
just please keep making content.
I know. Just please keep making content. Don't do it. Yeah, he begs her to make content like twice. Just keep making videos.
Yeah.
But she stops making videos. And I think, and he, so what does he do? He creates closure in a world that defies closure. You know, you don't get closure on the internet, like I said, but the end of this film is a whole monologue from him constructing this elaborate scenario.
Yeah.
Giving himself the closure that he was denied.
Yeah.
And making it weird because he's a creep.
Right. Yeah. And if you want to, like, a really uncharitable read is that he, like, abducts her, and this is to, like, throw everybody off.
Yeah, although I feel like we're kind of jumping the shark if we say that. Like, I don't know if there's any evidence of that. Like,
no, there's no evidence. Like, all of the evidence is circumstantial for any of these theories. But yeah, so You say that Casey gets upset in their last Skype call because he breaks the illusion of the game. I think it could also be that she saw his obsession as like being role played, and once he asked her to step outside of the game, then she could see that he's just obsessed with her, the teenager.
That's fair. I can see that. Like I can like it's instead of being upset about the game being broken, it's also disgust at this man, because she's clearly old enough to recognize a predator when she sees one.
Yeah. Is there anything to say about like interactions in the online age in general, and like the layers of artifice that exist even when you're not role playing, just like the curated personas that people put forth online?
That's true for sure. Because like think about it like this: like she's gonna record herself sleeping, and then she just decides to stop, and that's when we get the video where she goes outside to the barn.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she was almost like, I'm not gonna make videos until she saw somebody engage with her. Because the video that pops up on the screen is one of JBL's videos, like saying like, "Oh, you're in trouble, you're in trouble."
Yeah.
And she's like, that reignites her passion for the thing, because she was making these videos. We see she's only getting like 15 viewers, 16 viewers.
Yeah. And that doesn't really grow much by the end of the film.
But she's getting attention from someone. She's getting attention from like the main game master that we see, right? Like,
yeah.
Because like clearly he is the central nexus through which a lot of this role play is flowing, because he's got pictures and drawings of all these other videos we see. We see the girl who grew demon wings or whatever, obviously fake wings.
Yeah.
But it's all part of the game, right? And he's got a drawing of her, and he's got a drawing of the tickets guy. He's got a drawing of all this stuff. So he's clearly like at least as big of a name in this trend as you're going to find. We don't see any of his view counts ever, but we do understand that he is a bigger fish in a small pond.
Yeah.
And so him giving her attention, it almost ties into the predator angle, because it's like, you know, she's a young girl and she makes videos on the internet, and along comes this guy who's got clout in whatever she's interested in.
Yeah.
And now is inserting himself into her role play, into her life. And she invited it in a certain way, but also like, you know, it's not justified.
So yeah, she starts to record a video of her sleeping, and then I think we actually hear her mutter like, "Oh, this is stupid," or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't getting any attention at the time. But then after he starts engaging with her, then she does do the sleep video.
Yeah.
And she puts on a performance for him. She's like, "This is your," and also like, it's an 8.5 hour video, and he watches the entire thing and combs through it. Like, even if he was even if he was her age, like if they didn't make him an older man, they made him just like a normal teenage guy, that is still a line. I mean, she uploaded the video, but come on, like no one is watching an 8.5 hour video of someone sleeping, and that's healthy.
I guess you can put it on ×2. It's only 4 hours.
Oh, wow. Only 4 hours. The last activity that I spent 4 hours on was playing a video game, and that was very engaging. Could you imagine watching someone sleep?
Without a Twitch chat to...
Right, of course. It's the Twitch chat that makes the difference in this. You know, I will say I do fully acknowledge that there are actual Twitch streams of people sleeping, and that is a true thing that people do. But, like, it's still weird to me. And honestly, it's like, I don't even think it's about the people sleeping. I think it's legitimately just like about the community of the chat room. And it's just the person sleeping is the excuse that's brought us all together. Because like, I cannot imagine someone actually liking watching someone sleep. I don't know.
I almost said chat. Audience, if you're someone who enjoys watching sleep streams, email us. Explain yourself.
Don't do that. Get some help. No, but seriously, email us. Any engagement would be good. And I do want to know what makes your freak flag fly.
We need someone to beg us to keep making podcasts.
Oh yeah, we need a creep.
Where's our Lyndon B. Johnson?
Yeah, we need a creepy patron who will continue to egg us on and obsess over our videos. And
We're gonna make this like a Twilight thing. Like, I'm just a Casey waiting for my Lyndon B. Johnson.
I don't even know if we're getting his name right.
We're not. We're absolutely not. But it's close. I think it's like LJB or something.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so let's see here. I think that thematically, as I was getting into earlier, that this is about the not necessarily dangers of parasocial relationships, but definitely about the untrustworthiness of them. Like, the entire challenge is built on people putting a presentation forward. And as you were asking earlier, to get back to your point, which is, the artifice that we put on for people on the internet. We do that even if we're not trying to, because we have complete control over what we send out in a text message. We can just choose to not respond. We can leave people on red. Whereas if you're in a social face-to-face interaction and somebody gets you mad, you might say something that you didn't mean. Stuff might come out, like you might react. But if you have videos that you're making or text messages that you're sending or whatever, that is when you can maintain whatever presentation you're looking for. Now, some people slip up, of course, and they channel themselves through whatever they're texting. They text like they talk and they text without thinking and stuff like that. That's true. But, the fact is that you have ultimate control over the curated space that is YouTube or whatever.
Yeah.
Even this podcast is edited, right? So like, we'll edit things out that we didn't want people to see. We'll put our best presentation forward that we can provide while still being earnest. I mean, we're still being honest about our thoughts about the film, but we're going to cut things out. We're going to edit things.
Right.
And that is just a part of the online experience. It's an edited, curated experience.
Yeah.
Even though it's full of a lot of what I would call dredge. Even the dredge is curated. Someone took time to make it.
Yeah.
Think of the worst TV show that you've ever watched. Someone edited that. Someone did sound design. Someone wrote a script for that. Someone edited the script for that.
Yeah.
And it's the worst TV show ever. Quality doesn't necessarily take away the curated nature of things. The only time you're going to get a genuine experience is if you are in person with someone. And even then, we still put on a face.
Yeah.
Only your most intimate, closest friends do you truly ever really know. And even then, I could have bodies buried under this apartment. You don't know.
Don't know. Okay, is there like an aspect of this movie that we haven't covered?
Let's play devil's advocate for a moment. Let's pretend like it's a real supernatural thing.
Okay.
How does it change the theming of this movie? If we take the movie seriously and say that it is a real weird thing that they're doing.
And people are like kind of losing themselves.
Yeah, almost like an apocalyptic event.
Yeah, like now I'm thinking of Black Hole was a graphic novel by Charles Burns, in which people were getting sexually transmitted mutations.
Oh, okay. So
like,
just erotic X-Men.
I guess. Yeah, that's sort of like mimetic mutation, I suppose.
That's a good word. Mimetic mutation.
Yeah, it's fun.
Where
fun. People are pulling tickets out of their arms.
I mean, you opened up with a really interesting... What was the word you said? Oblique?
Oblique, yeah.
Is that what you opened this podcast with?
Yeah. Oblique media.
Oblique media. Okay, so is there any possible way that the supernatural stuff is actually happening? Like, to me, I'm pretty on the side of like, no, this is all fake. But, I guess there is a possibility that there is a real supernatural element to what's going on here.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, and I can't really think of a way that it would like make me view the ending differently or anything. I guess it would make me more inclined to believe that she actually did just like vanish.
So like it actually did take her.
Yeah.
And then, but then what is our esteemed game master? What is he talking about at the end then? Wouldn't it make a better story to say that she actually disappeared then?
I don't think it would really change. Like, from his perspective, he doesn't know, and we, the audience, don't know. And I feel like either way, he's making up this story, unless you actually believe him and you believe that he stayed up an entire night with his hand on his computer screen praying, and it prevented her from being taken.
Right. And it's so crazy because, like, the director of this film, Jane Schubrin, is that how I say that?
Oh, don't ask me. Schönbrunn looks like.
Okay. I think that this is what Jane, the director, I feel like she wanted there to be more ambiguity about the supernatural elements, because the next film, I Saw the TV Glow, is way more ambiguous about the supernatural elements.
Okay.
And they have a lot of the same themes about, like, false identity. Now that I've rewatched this film after watching that film, I'm thinking a lot about how, it's almost like she made this, like, she did the same things thematically twice, but with very different presentations. So it's almost like this movie was a little rough around the edges, and I could tell that it was a little rough around the edges.
Yeah. My interest did wane somewhere in the middle when we were getting like a bunch of largely unedited video snippets.
Yeah, the pace really does drag in the middle, I think. And again, going back into what I was saying earlier about it, I feel like it would have been better if it was all videos.
Yeah.
I don't know. How do you feel about that? Because I think some of the scenes we get that are not videos do help frame a lot of the narrative, but I feel like there was a way to do it without breaking the illusion.
Yeah, it does seem like it would have been possible. Like, the scene of her going out to the barn seems like the only one that's maybe necessary. It shows the way that she got, like, hooked back into it, if that's even important. I don't know.
We could have just shown that video, like we could have still had the ASMR. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it could have been like here, the ASMR is like a little palate cleanser, it's that.
But would there have been anything to, like, let us know that Casey was watching? Like, if it's all videos, is it just like a playlist for our benefit, or? Well,
you could have done it like where she is like watching it in the background of one of her videos, like we see it paused on the screen or something. There was a way to, like, do it that would have been, like, she could have made it as part of one of her videos. Like, she's like, I'm so freaked out, I have to calm down, and she turns it on or something. Like, it's still, and then the other video pops on, and it's like and then she set that up, because like it seems like in the movie it auto plays from the ASMR to that, which doesn't make any sense to me. Like, what is the algorithm of this website they're using?
I mean, I guess she would probably follow him if she's into this.
True,
game.
But would it auto cue after playing like that? Wouldn't it want to play more related media? So she's watching this, or they could have put
guess
some
that's
creepy stuff
why
in.
it's not YouTube.
I guess
functions however it needs to.
Yeah, it functions however the plot contrives that it needs to.
Yeah. I think it probably could have been all videos. Maybe that would have given more ambiguity to the supernatural elements.
Which I think is kind of important for this kind of narrative, where this movie loses people, I think. And I can see why. Because it doesn't really pick a lane. It's not like this slow cerebral film. It's about a very straightforward thematic concept, but it's also, like, not scary. It's just uncomfortable. Like, that's what I say. Like, the horror of this movie makes you uncomfortable. It doesn't scare you.
Yeah, I will say I was hooked by the opening, which is just us looking at Casey while she records her, like, introduction video, and she gets up and fiddles with the lights, and she seems very anxious about it. That really drew me in.
Yes, I agree.
But then yeah, there was definitely a period where that kind of fell off, and it really hinges on your concern for her, I think.
That's true. Also, like, if we had just spent the entire movie in that room with her while she like lost her mind on a live stream or something,
Yeah.
I think I said that. Like, I just feel like that would have been a better horror movie. Like the discomfort and the disquiet that you feel watching her do all of this, and you're not sure if she's just putting it on for the camera or if she's actually doing it, because she hurts herself. She pricks her finger.
Yeah.
Like a lot. She like does it like a bunch of times.
Yeah. It
Like,
didn't seem necessary.
exactly. So like, you know, she could very much be actually hurting herself, but it's just a performance that she's putting on. I feel like the movie would have been better if it was just that perspective the whole time, and the entire movie just took place in that room. You know, like an hour and a half just journey through hell as this young girl just proceeds to take the World's Fair challenge, and how much of it is real and how much of it is she putting on for the camera. And that would be way more ambiguous and still the thematic points. And we didn't need, you know, Predator Lyndon B. Johnson.
Perhaps.
I don't think his character is necessary. I don't think he serves a purpose that couldn't have been served more effectively by just leaving it ambiguous.
Okay, fair enough. I looked up, I want to watch, I don't know if we'll like do a podcast about it, but I want to watch her earlier, shorter film, The School is Watching, I believe it was called. And from the description, it's cut together like high school announcement videos. It wasn't clear to me if it was like actual found footage or, you know, found footage as a genre.
See, that's really cool. That's a really cool concept. And I feel like this movie could have been better if it was just that. Because it's what it's trying to say. I think by breaking the illusion, it hurts the overall, like, impact, I guess. I didn't feel as impacted by this. Like, that opening scene, if you just showed me that, it'd be like, wow, that was really effective. Like, oh my God. Like, I was really impacted by that. And then it just loses all its steam, which compared it to I Saw a TV Glow, way more impactful. Just through the momentum of that movie is kept to the whole movie.
Yeah. I haven't seen it yet. I'm excited to.
Yes. Yeah, I know. I'm hyping it up now. You're going to hate it now because like I've hyped it up too much. But I just mean like in general, like I can see where this clearly there was feedback given to Jane, the director, because her next film fixes basically everything that I think about. And I didn't really feel that way the first time I watched this movie. You know, it had been long enough since I'd watched it that like I guess I forgot a lot about it. You know, I knew the general beats and that it was creepy. What else should we discuss about this film? I think we've kind of covered everything.
Seems like we have. I'm trying to think now if there's a way that I can talk about It Follows.
Sure, talk about it. Let's compare it. Compare It Follows to this.
I'm not like, I haven't watched a lot of horror.
Right, that's more my thing.
Yeah, I didn't grow up with it. I used to like really not handle it very well. Like even in my late 20s, I remember watching The Babadook, and like there's a scene in The Babadook that's even watching it in the daytime was like giving me like tunnel vision and shakes almost.
It is a very scary movie.
Since the pandemic, like I can watch horror now and it doesn't affect me because the real world is horrifying.
That's true.
But one of my favorites in my limited repertoire of horror is It Follows. And I think it does a great job of setting a tone.
Oh, okay. So that feeling of disquiet and discomfort.
Yeah, I guess that's it.
Okay, I can see where you're coming from with that. If I had to compare a film to this one, it would be Late Night with the Devil.
Yeah, I thought of that too. I haven't seen it though, so
I won't spoil it.
Okay.
It's presented in that like pseudo this is a camera, and then we cut away. It's like very similar in presentation, actually. So there's side pieces where we get out of character, or sorry, not out of character. What would be out of character stuff in We're All Going to the World's Fair, which is like off camera backstage stuff in Late Night with the Devil. And so they're very presented in a very similar way. I would argue that Late Night with the Devil has a better ending. And, you know, like, this isn't a horror podcast, so, you know, maybe we'll do an episode about Late Night with the Devil eventually, but it's not really the vibe of this.
Yeah, a little too mainstream, probably.
I wouldn't say that. I would say it's just not weird. It's it's not odd in the way that this movie is.
Okay.
But without spoiling it, I would say that it's very similar in its presentation.
Okay. Now, have you seen Ghost Watch?
I don't think I have. I think remember we talked about that once before, and you didn't. But
I watched Ghost Watch because everybody reviewing Late Night with the Devil was bringing it up. It's a BBC TV movie that was presented as a real broadcast. And the premise is like, okay, for Halloween, we're going to send this TV crew into this supposedly haunted house. And we've got, you know, our paranormal specialist talking about what she's seeing. And we've got a call center where you can call in and give like ghost tips or whatever. And the host of the whole thing, like, is very clearly skeptical, like, to the point that, like, obviously this is all bullshit. We're doing it for fun. And he's like barely putting up the facade of like, oh, this might be true. But over the course of the movie, like, things go wrong and it becomes very clear that there are real supernatural elements. And so by the end of it, it was like a War of the Worlds broadcast thing where they were actually scaring people in their homes in Britain. So it's not exactly found footage, but because it's like live footage, but it's like kind of in the same vein.
No discovery of this footage was required.
Right.
We already had it. We didn't have to find it again.
Yeah. It's really cool. It's really well done. Pretty effective. Again, I didn't feel that like tightness in my chest that I like used to get when I was younger, but I think like I can objectively say that it was pretty effective as a horror movie.
Right. Do you think then that this movie not having a drop, like, you know, it's like this movie is all up on the roller coaster and no drop. Yeah. Do you think that that's
it's you're climbing the roller coaster and then you're just like you're still going and it just goes up into the sky.
And then you just get off.
Yeah.
That's the ride.
Yeah.
And then you have to walk the staircase down.
Yeah. That's kind of the experience. And then like you can imagine a drop of your own, I guess. I think comparing it to It Follows has a very like graphic, it sets the stakes in the opening scene.
Yeah, exactly.
And so then it can be like slow and dreadful throughout because you know like this thing's gonna fuck you up.
Right, if it gets you as it walks slowly towards you.
Yep. Inevitably. And We're All Going to the World's Fair doesn't have that.
There's no drop. There's no point at which they're like, okay, we're doing scary stuff now.
Yeah.
And like, again, just if they had just done that, or if they had just committed to not showing us any out of character stuff, it would be way more creepy in the implications.
I think the scariest parts were, I guess, what Casey does in that 8-hour sleep video, and the question of whether she's losing control of herself because she does, you know, rip up her favorite stuffed animal, the like lemur or whatever,
which is like unironically the like part that hurts my feelings the most about this movie. Like,
yeah. Yeah.
That lemur, the little or sloth or whatever it is that she has, like that, like her companion the whole time, and she destroys that for clout on the internet.
Yeah. Yeah. Depending on how you view like her mental state and like whether it's quote unquote real, like even if it's not supernatural, like maybe she's like losing track of what's real in her head. Like, but that's as far as it goes.
Yeah, it doesn't, like, again, I think they take away our ability to use implication to scare ourselves. Like, honestly, again, my point of it, like, if it just had been straight, like, just videos, then we'd almost, it's almost like we're participating in the LARP, like, and the horror that we make for our own selves. We scare ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't get that because the movies, I guess maybe the movie's not about that, I guess. I don't know. The more I like talk about it with you right now, the less I'm sure what it's really trying to say.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking myself almost out of my initial idea. Like,
yeah. Do you think it has something to say about like why we try to scare ourselves?
not well.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it does it well. Like,
there was a point in the middle of the movie where I thought maybe that theme would come up.
And it just doesn't.
Yeah, I think it was when she was talking about like she's been watching horror since she was 5 or something. Like, did she say she like used it to go to sleep or something?
No, she was saying that she would make horror movies in her head, not watch them.
Okay.
Like she would like, construct
yeah,
elaborate fantasies because she was sleepwalking all the time, and she would like construct these elaborate fantasies as to why.
Okay.
Yeah, like why do we do that to ourselves? Why do we scare ourselves? Like, I'm a huge horror movie fan, right? Like, and why do I do that? Like, why do I like horror so much?
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I'm a queer person. Like, I can see that. Like, a lot of queer folk are very attracted to horror, and there's a whole cottage industry around explaining that. But
do you have an explanation?
I mean, if you want me to get into it, sure. Okay. Horror is about deviancy.
Okay.
And when you have a society that says that you're deviant because you're queer or you're trans or you're gay or whatever, you're attracted to movies about deviancy, and horror is about deviating from the social norm. Like, most of horror is an external thing invading like a normal world, basically. Like, this like alien from somewhere else is invading our space. This demon is invading our space.
Yeah.
You know, Child's Play, which is a horror movie that really impacts me as a person. Like, like not anymore. Like, I'm numb to it now. But when I first watched the first Chucky movie, it like haunted me for like weeks because it's about like the destruction of innocence.
Yeah.
And like my own innocence was destroyed by a world that rejected me. Like, you know, that kind of stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
But I think that this movie doesn't do it well. And I think I want to like it more than I do. Like, I want to like this movie more.
Yeah.
Because it has a lot of potential. I don't know. How do you feel? Do you feel like this movie has untapped potential?
Yeah. I initially rated it 4.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. And I'm kind of rethinking that now that we've like kind of picked it apart. But there were definitely a lot of like ideas and pieces that resonated with me. And maybe when I saw the TV glow, I'll be like, oh, this is what it was supposed to be all along.
They are very different in their presentation. For the audience, when I compare these two things, I'm mostly just comparing like themes. But yes, I think you'll see where like she took I Saw the TV Glow as the opportunity to like do better.
Yeah.
I would give this movie 2.5.
Wow. Okay.
Mostly because like it's averages, right? Because like the intro, 5 stars. The intro of this movie is amazing. Yeah. But the ending is 3, and there's a couple of like 1-star moments in this movie for me. Okay. Like, again, the first 15 minutes of this film are like great. I love it. It's so slow. It takes its time. You're very uncomfortable. And if the whole movie had been that, it would be just been like my favorite horror movie. But I think it just kind of fails in the execution.
Yeah.
And it wasn't as weird as I remembered it being. It's still a very weird movie. It's very, very funky, but
weird in terms of like how things are presented. Or,
yeah, it's very avant-garde, and so it matches our vibe. Like, it fits this podcast, and it's a great way to open this podcast. Yeah. But I still just feel like I remembered it being stranger in my memory when I suggested it for us.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know where my rating on it will land. I tend to be really obsessive over it, and I'll probably like go to my list and like see, okay, these were my 3-star movies. These are 3.5.
Yeah, by the way, please check out Tristan's Letterboxd.
Yeah.
For more information about how he thinks about film. I do not have a Letterboxd. I don't have time for that.
I think. Oh, well. Oh, okay. This is your Letterboxd.
Exactly. I prefer this format. But you rated it 4.5. So what do you think is different?
Yeah, it'll definitely come down from there. I don't know how far.
What do you think is different about when you initially watched it versus now that you've had time to marinate on it?
Like, for the most part throughout the movie, I connected with that feeling of dread and like trying to, like, maybe I'm the Lyndon B. Johnson, and I became obsessed with a parasocial relationship with this girl.
Oh, you fell into the trap. Oh no, the movie tricked you.
And then like the ambiguity of the ending, it wasn't like, it definitely isn't satisfying.
Very unsatisfying.
But I guess I was kind of sold on it being unsatisfying in the moment.
And I think there's a good way to do that. Like, another movie that should be on our list is The Wall, the movie version of it, the Pink Floyd movie.
Floyd? Okay, yeah.
And that movie is just straight up denies closure at the end. Like, you don't get a satisfying end to that film either.
I've seen it, but it was in high school, so...
And that's fair, but like this film though, like, it denies you closure.
Yeah,
it's unsatisfying, but it's done well. Versus this one, I just feel kind of just leaves you again all up on the roller coaster.
Yeah,
you're like, wow, this roller coaster is sure going to be really great when it drops, like, because the suspense it builds. You know, you do feel uncomfortable the whole movie, and then you're just like waiting for it. Yeah. And the most intriguing shot we get is some guy pulling tickets out of his arm, like.
Yeah, looking back on it.
Or like when she's having her crisis and she's all in glow paint, like that's the cover for this. That's the cover for this movie. Like the cover of this movie is her in glow paint. If she had done something like when she walked away and before she came back to like see the scene and like freak out, I was expecting gunshots the first time I watched this movie.
Yeah,
I was expecting her to like do it, and I was like, and that would have been a great way to end the film. If that was how the film ended, then I would say that it would be much better in my opinion. Like, it would have the slow and like, haha, funny, all this, like, we're just being silly on the internet. It would have been a more impactful horror film if she actually would have done it like she wanted to. It would have sold the like, was that real? Did she just fire the gun off? Did she actually, we don't get that. Like, that's her last video. And we cut out that last bit and we just cut to, you know, Predator Lyndon B. Johnson giving his little speech.
Yeah,
you know, about like what happened. It's like, oh no, that was just fake, you know, or whatever. He's reassuring us, even though we know he's a creep. But like, if that was that was the last video, and we get gunshots, and then we get that, and then the film ends, it would be like a 3.5, 4 in my opinion. Like, if it had ended with something like that, and like not exactly that, like obviously it didn't have to be exactly that, but like something like that would have made the film better in my opinion.
Another theme that I expected to be explored more than it was kind of the teenage impulse to change oneself. So like, obviously there's a lot of hormonal changes in adolescence.
What? No.
No, ma'am, no.
No. Hormonal changes. What is this?
And you're also like kind of trying to figure out where you fit into the larger world. And I think there's oftentimes a sort of impulse to like kind of force change in oneself. And it can lead to abandonment of the things that were once held dear. And we can really see that in the lemur dismemberment scene, where Casey has had this stuffed animal since practically birth. Like she's had it with her the whole movie, basically, right?
Mm-hmm. Wearing it as like a totem when she went out to the barn for that scene.
Yeah, yeah. And so in like what I guess is the climax of the movie, she puts on a bunch of glow-in-the-dark paint and rips it up and stomps on it. And then later we see her like come back and regret that. But I think that kind of speaks to that sort of adolescent need to like force oneself to grow up, like
right, like all of those previous things that I liked so much I need to forcibly reject because they're childish, or they're things that my parents like, or you know, I need to assert my own identity and reinvent myself.
Yeah. And so that really would seem to dovetail with this idea of a game that's changing who you are. That's I mean, the meta narrative is that it's out of control, like you don't know how it's going to change you.
When you open yourself up to change of any kind, you're never 100% certain where you're going to end up at the end of it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, transitioning, for example, you know, you don't know how the hormones change your brain until it's already done. And there's like a whole host of memories that you have of how you were before that don't match with who you become. Like you can remember yourself doing things and participating in things, and the way you handled them, you know, some of that's maturity, but another of it's like you just see the worlds differently, and so you almost feel like you have someone else's memories and you're watching someone else's life when you think back on it after you've been changing. And, you know, tying that into someone who is gender queer or non-conforming like the director is, it really does kind of seem like it's almost a subtle theme of like participating in something that changes who you are by making you act out in a certain way. You perform a social role, or you perform a role like in this game that they're all playing, and that is what's changing you. It's not that the truth is that the game changed you, it's the playing of the game that changed you.
Right. So that kind of reminded me a little bit of the movie Ginger Snaps, which is, have you seen it?
Yes.
Okay.
A very gory movie, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Yeah. It's all about like adolescent changes, and there's a lot of the blood is kind of like period coded.
Yeah, it's very, very menstrual coded.
Yeah. But it really grappled with that kind of tension of change and abandonment, especially since she had a friend who wasn't changing at the same rate at the same time, and so that
for our audience at home, can you give like a non-spoiler synopsis of Ginger Snaps?
It's been a while since I've seen it, but it's basically a werewolf movie through that sort of adolescent change lens. Right.
Using the imagery of the werewolf to represent going through a girl puberty.
Yeah.
Which is, it's honestly a very clever movie. I wouldn't say it's like the best movie ever made or my favorite horror movie, but I definitely can see why you're comparing it to this. Although, you know, I don't know if it does this movie any favors, because I feel like that's a better horror movie than this is.
Right. It's more like that's an example of the kinds of themes that I expected from World's Fair.
Oh, okay. So you're just basically saying like this is what it could have been capable of.
Yeah, yeah. And there's also like the idea of neuroplasticity that we can change ourselves very literally, like through willpower, through
repetition.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of like if you've ever like started saying like some stupid phrase ironically.
Yeah, like fam. I started saying fam ironically as a joke, and then I like unironically went 2 years saying it all the time.
Exactly. There's a very real irony to sincerity pipeline where it just kind of becomes ingrained. So just by practicing this quote unquote game where you quote unquote pretend to change, then that invites actual mental change.
And that kind of ties into the overall theme, right? So like, think about this, like all these people who get on the internet today, or well, it's a bad example today given what's going on in our country. But ultimately, like before, like let's say like 5 years ago, people were like irony posting a bunch of like, fascist propaganda, like, oh, it's just a joke. It's just a joke.
Yeah.
But it has a real effect on people if you see that stuff all the time, repeated over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Which is, again, the internet culture artifice, layers of artifice, like we were talking about, right? So the layers of artifice that are found inside of this movie reflecting the way that the internet works in general. And that neuroplasticity, like you were speaking of, that changes you. It's the act, like I said earlier, it's the act of playing that changes you, not the game.
Related to the idea of neuroplasticity, there's a podcast that I used to listen to called Two Hip Chicks. That's HYP, because they talk about hypnosis. If you're thinking of looking it up, you should know it is a kink podcast, 18 plus recommended. But they really talk about like kind of the nitty gritty of the process of trance and hypnosis and what's possible to achieve through it. And I feel like a fake fan because I can't remember her name, but
just say what she is. Just be,
yeah.
Just it's okay. This is a safe space.
So like, there's two hosts. There's Sleeping Girl and essentially her sub, who she puts into trance at the end of every episode. And she's talked about how like she's either susceptible enough or has like trained herself enough that through trance she can actually take something, some kind of stimulus that she finds distasteful and has been able to like reroute that to a pleasure center, and just kind of, it's kind of amazing like the amount of control is possible in like rewiring the human brain.
That's actually really interesting, and I think that kind of reminds me of like Jungian shadow work. So for those at home who don't know, Carl Jung is one of the founders of modern psychology as we kind of understand it. And while they were a little weird, as I think any true psychologist tends to be, they created a lot of like the archetypes. So if you think of like, if you've ever taken one of those, astrology for business people tests that gives you your ENFJ or whatever personality type, that's based on Jung. And so that's one part of it. But another thing that's relevant to what you were talking about is that shadow work is the process by which you kind of come to terms with all of the repressed parts of yourself. And one of the major ways that people do shadow work is through hypnosis. And so I think that there is actually something to it, like the idea that if you can get yourself into that hypnotic state, you can change who you are on a fundamental level. Maybe not like a completely different person, but you can certainly reduce or maximize different parts of your being, your psyche, to come out. And I think that kind of ties into this film, because she starts the challenge by basically watching a hypno video on YouTube, The Lights.
Right.
Which I feel is a good stand-in for basically any hypnosis video, any kind of hypnosis content.
Yeah. If you can hear a crunching in the background, that is a dog with a bone.
Yes, and she didn't even look at the bone until we started recording.
Of course.
As is dog. Anyway, as I was saying, with the Jungian archetypes and with hypnosis, I think that really does kind of emphasize the point, which is that this is kind of a thing about self-hypnosis, about how hypnosis is a willing thing. Like, you undergo this hypno video and then you take place in the role play. Yeah. It's almost like a metaphor for self-hypnosis, for self-actualization through change, which I think was your original point to begin with.
Yeah. So that's something that I wish kind of had been explored further.
It would have really heightened this film, I think.
Yeah. Okay, now have we? I know we said it before. I think we've wrapped
it up. Yeah.
Okay, so Ari, what was one thing you liked and one thing you didn't like about this film?
The one thing that I liked the most about this film was the intro. I think we're in agreement about that.
Yeah. Strongest part for sure. I added it to my letterbox list of strong openings in film. Okay. I might also add it to movies that go downhill after the plot starts.
Yeah, exactly. And then my least favorite thing actually was, I think it was actually, we didn't even talk about it, but like it was that cutaway to the like TV show where they were doing the gimmick of like getting sucked into the TV screen. Did not belong in this film at all.
Yeah, that was an odd, kind of the odd video out, I guess, on the playlist.
Yeah, I would say that like my least favorite thing is like that's at the midpoint. When we're talking about the midpoint like slowdown of this film, anybody who's watched it and listening to us, you know what we're talking about, and
we had different interpretations of it, which I thought was interesting.
Oh yeah,
because it like shows a TV show or like a web series maybe. There's dramatic music and somebody's on the phone. It's like, don't watch the video. And then he does the World's Fair challenge basically. And then he gets sucked into the screen with CGI,
Yeah.
And so what was your interpretation of that?
My interpretation was that was the inspiration for the challenge.
Okay.
And then you, I remember, said that it was the opposite. That
yeah. When I saw it, I thought, okay, this is like some cheesy way that the World's Fair Challenge has kind of like seeped into media.
Either way, it doesn't belong. Like, it completely killed my immersion. Like, because we're supposed to be doing this like lo-fi. We're all in our bedroom doing videos.
It was jarring.
Yeah. Suddenly, like, it's a actual thing with production value. It's like, like some cheesy show from.
Yeah.
And, I think that a little bit that's the director. Like, there's a lot of that in I Saw the TV Glow. Like, but it fits. It works. It's the whole point. But, like, I think that they have a fondness for that kind of, like, cheesy, like, low budget TV show. Like,
we need to do Dark Dungeons.
Okay. Yeah. We'll add it to our list. All right. Well, what was your favorite thing and what was your least favorite thing?
I mean, obviously the intro again, but I guess I'll say the lemur dismemberment scene. It's
very, like, that's your least favorite or your favorite? Favorite. Okay. Yeah. It is a very effective scene. Like, honestly, it regains some of the momentum that is lost a little bit.
Yeah. It's like one of the few times we see like actual consequences in the physical world that like we can verify. Like she definitely rips that thing up and stomps on it.
Yeah.
And then seems to regret it afterwards. And maybe it was all planned for the video, but I think it shows a scene that's not video after that. So,
right, of her holding the remnants.
Yeah. So we can see that there is at least some real regret there.
What was your least favorite thing?
Least favorite thing was like, some of those videos that were longer than they need it to be. Not the AutoZone one. That one was perfect.
That was
obviously.
so good. Hey, guys, guess where I am? AutoZone. That's like such a teenage girl thing. Like,
yeah, just a random shit post thrown in there.
it sold the internet. Like, contrary to the other, like the clip being out of context, like that one really sold it just like as some girl's channel. Like,
yeah. And at the beginning, she had mentioned like throwing herself in front of a car. So like there was like that threat to it at the beginning of the shot.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah,
I was
exactly.
like, no.
Yeah, no. It's just a dumb joke.
But yeah, there was like some of the long ones that I don't even remember because they seemed pointless.
They just go on needlessly. Yeah, exactly. I think the Predator guy doesn't need to be in this movie. Like, I think he doesn't serve a purpose. And most of the boring parts are his parts.
Yeah, and his way of speaking, which is like...
Oh, yeah.
He seems to have some
sorry, audience, but that's
respiratory
legitimately what he does.
problems.
Yeah, I know. He's like on a fucking respirator.
We
or
gotta
something.
start a GoFundMe for that guy. Get him a nebulizer. This has been Emissaries from the Void with Ari Stell Hawthorne and myself, Tristan Bowersox. New episodes will be released every other week with short bonus content we're calling liminals in the off weeks. The intro music is Now I Hear Little Dreams by Captive Portal, and the outro music is Arcadia by White Bat Audio. You can find us on Blue Sky at Void Emissaries, and remember that's single M double S. You can find Ari as Obscurity on most platforms and me on Blue Sky and Letterboxd as TB McQueen. The latter is where you will find our watch list and suggest movies you'd like to hear us dissect. You can also email us at emissariesfromthevoid@outlook.com to give feedback, alternate takes on the movies we've discussed, questions, suggestions, etc. Emissaries from the Void is a Void Opal podcast produced by TB McQueen Creative. For something completely different, listen to my other podcast, Fan Fiction Theater.